Hey guys, Nathan here, and we're doing another interview today from Melbourne. We are in the Light Warrior offices, and we're interviewing Radek Sali, and he is the co-founder and CEO, co-founder and chair of Light Warrior, correct? And also the previous CEO of Swisse Vitamins, one of the largest multivitamin companies out of Australia. He has some incredible stories to tell, incredibly accomplished founder and CEO. So yeah, you guys are in for an absolute treat. So yeah, Radek, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Nathan. Great to be here.
Awesome. So I guess the first question I ask everyone that comes on is, how did you get your job?
Well, through a set of circumstances that led me to where I am today. I've always wanted to retire by 30 it was at first, and be up, and I say retire in the way that I'd be able to choose what I spend my time on rather than have to work as a means to deliver payment on debts and so forth.
Yeah.
So forced to think of life that way. And so about, when I was getting close to 30, about 28, 29, I had to reset my sights on 40, and thankfully I made it by 40, and now I'm on the grand age of 42, and I've got it in the privileged position where I can really choose where I spend my time and what I do day to day.
Amazing. So how did you get your start in business?
Well, the first kind of job I ever did was in a pizza shop, because we had family friends that had a pizza shop, and yep. I'd wash pizza trays.
Yep.
And I'd get paid $5 for the honour of doing that. And that would be about 5 hours work. But the best part was I'd get a pizza. And I loved pizza. So that's what drove me to get my first job.
There you go. And how did you find yourself working at Village and everything you did there? And then,
Yeah, so Village happened when I finished school.
Yep.
And I got into university and I needed a job to supplement being a student.
Yep.
And I got a job at Village Cinemas, which was an amazing thing to do, because the jobs we all wanted up as kids growing up was working in a video store or in movies. So cinemas were just such an exciting place to be. But what I quickly realised is that I was paying for this university course, and I was in this environment that was owned by a big listed organisation where I could learn everything about business. And I was getting paid for it. I didn't have to pay like I was paying for my university course to learn about life and how you succeed in life. So the cinemas provided the best platform, the best entrepreneurship in learning about business, and you were paid. So I worked my guts out shoveling popcorn, cleaning cinemas, selling movie tickets, and then worked my way to managing my peers,
yep.
managing people that were older than me, younger than me, all types, and working out a way to do that in a way that was sustainable, in a way that people would respond well to my direction, but also in a way that was authentic, because if they were my friends or a peer that I'd go out with afterwards, which a lot of them were because you're 18, 19, you couldn't be a dickhead about it. Yeah. You had to be the same person you were that had the beer with them outside of work, in the workplace. And that meant I had to bring my authentic self. And I think that that's really changed in the demands of leadership and corporates, is that we can't put on a suit any longer. And so I'm doing this for my family and come in as a totally different person to who you are in your own life.
Yes.
To who you are in the workplace. And that change has happened over my run of leadership, which I was in a very fortunate position to learn that at a very young age.
And what happened next? So you finished up your tenure?
Yeah, so what happened next? I worked in some extraordinary situations with Village overseas, starting circuits. I got to do things that most 20-year-old kids shouldn't be doing, really, managing big businesses and lots of people.
Yes.
And be provided with every opportunity, which maybe they should, because it's worked out really well for me. And I just, that to me, I got hungry for more of it, and I worked my way up to as far as I could get with Village. I was basically the most senior person in operations.
Yes.
And I was 27 years old.
Yep.
And there was no way a public company was going to put a 27-year-old in charge of a listed company.
Yes.
So for me, it became patently clear that I'd have to be very patient in my role. I actually applied for the marketing manager role to try and get out of just being in operations, stock taking, running cinemas, all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I didn't even get an interview. So I kind of went, well, these guys just see me as the ops guy.
Yep.
And the only way I'm going to change that is by changing industries and doing something where I won't be pigeonholed, but where I can bring my big business learnings and structures.
Yes.
And the essence of what I saw as good leadership, which is focused on providing the best culture that then enables people to perform at their absolute best. So I spread the wings and I went to China and went to Guangzhou, which funnily enough, the business that eventually bought us at Swisse was based in Guangzhou. And I looked at things like starting a gelato store chain over there and a whole lot of other import-export type opportunities.
Yes.
None of those really stuck. My father's a professor of surgery, mum's a medical scientist.
Oh, wow.
So, and how they saw things was always around nutrition and prevention. So Dad was one of the first conventional doctors to talk about diet causing disease back in the 70s. Oh. And it took his work 20 years before it got published. My mother's a scientist who reads people's blood and the health of their blood and the nutrition that's required for them to be as healthy as they can be to deal with a chronic syndrome and to deal with the onset of conventional medicine and how you get as healthy as possible to deal with a chronic disease. So my parents would talk about diet and nutrition and so we had this wonderful network of people that were close to the family that were involved in the industry some way, or academics, or did what they did. And one of those was Michael Saba, who was managing director of Swisse at the time, and we'd always been close. And he'd spoken to me about roles with Swisse a couple of years earlier. Or the time I didn't feel like I'd finished my journey at Village, but at this time it was appropriate, and we met up and. He said he was meeting me to interview me, to recommend me for a role. And by the end of that conversation, the role he was recommending me for was to join Swisse and become the operations manager, quickly became general manager and then CEO within a period of 2-3 years.
I see. And how long was Swisse into their journey when you joined?
So the business was turning about 14 million in revenue, about $1 million in profit. So the base business was there. It had a great multivitamins range, which is men's and women's multivitamin. Really strong formulation. The reason why there was a relationship with my father is Dad, as an academic, wanted to be able to recommend a great product. And they had sought his advice, and they'd based all the product nutrition on science. And so Dad had something he could say to his patients that this is a good one to take, because back then there wasn't regulation in place like there is now. They were manufactured to food standards, and it was really pretty wild times. And so to find quality producers of product was difficult. And Swisse was definitely one of those, and always had been. And with a name like Swisse, it's really hard to kind of not be that, because the country's known for aspirational, great products. So the positioning of the product was really clear. It was a premium. And it had reached a point where the team had grown it as far as it could. So what I walked into was essentially a founder with his business partner, who had taken it as far as they could take it, with the knowledge that they had learnt from their journey, and that injection of someone coming from another industry where I'd seen big business practice and the ability to give people accountability to deliver on results, with the scope to be able to make decisions that may not always be A or B, it could even be C or D, rather than an implementer doing the implementation and having to rely on a founder to come and say, is this okay or not, and getting everything signed off. So when I walked into the business, everything was, essentially linked back to the founder, and we're in a situation where the founder had to sign off on everything. And whilst it was genius, whatever he was doing, it was just too much. The business has got too big.
Yes.
And we were just too stretched. So we needed to change the way we operated as a business.
So during that time period between you came in and Swisse was actually sold for a significant amount of money, what happened in between then? Because when I know the brand, this is before I even started Foundr, the company, I used to see your guys' ads. One thing that was really, really strong was you incredible on brand ambassadors and really elevating the positioning of the brand as being a premium brand. And you guys like some of the best marketing going around. And so what were some of the things that happened that you brought to the table, and talk us through what happened next after you joined?
Sure. So the first kind of 3 years of me joining the business in 2005 to 2008 was really me getting a handle of the core fundamentals of the biz. Also focusing it. We had 5 different brands.
5?
Yep. And Swisse was one of those brands. We were manufacturing as well.
Yes.
So for me, we had too many distractions for the size business we were. We needed to right-size ourselves for the capabilities that we were able to, that we had, and focus on delivering that. And the multivitamin was exactly that. So we got rid of those other brands. We closed down our manufacturing, and we got focused on being a brand, and our formulation and our new product development capabilities, and in enhancing the stretch of that brand over time. But that came a lot later down the path. So that first 3 years was doing that, and then getting our multivitamin sales from maybe 11 mil, because there was probably 3 mil coming from those other 4 brands.
Yes.
And growing them to 50 million.
Yep.
And it was a case of me going out, and this is Michael, his genius or paranoia, however which way you like to see it, but for me it's genius. He wouldn't let me see a P&L for the first 6 months to 12 months of being in the business, and I'm operations manager.
Wow.
So what do? You go out, you go and listen to your customers, and you also listen really intuitively to what's going on around you. You can't go and do market research. You have to go and do your own work. So part of that was barbecue conversations where I tell people where I work. They say, "What are you up to?" And they go, "Swisse." Then I'd go, what the embassy? And I say, no, it's vitamins. And they go, oh, they might change the subject, because it's pretty boring back then.
Yeah.
You'd walk into a pharmacy and you'd look at the pharmacy, and the health section or the vitamin section was land of the dinosaurs. Everyone was calling out that we can help you with IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, or urinary tract infection. No wonder people were changing the subject, the UTI, because no one's going to talk about those things at a barbecue. So they would change the subject. But then occasionally they would say, no, I take Centrum. And I go, why do you take Centrum? And they go, because Rob de Castella's the ambassador. And funnily enough, I'd go into stores and I'd go, why have you got so much Centrum on the walls here? And they go, oh, because Rob de Castella, look at the point of sale they get. And I go, well, do you get better margin on that product? No, it's the worst margin in the category. So, well, why do you give so much space to it? Well, it sells itself because of the advertising. Well, hang on. What if we were advertising to that level? We could do the same. Now, Centrum at that time was owned by Pfizer, which was the biggest drug company in the world at that time. And so we were never going to be able to be 52 weeks on the TV for the size of organisation.
Yeah.
We were. So we needed to kind of rethink and reimagine how we advertised our products.
Yes.
And the reason why we could advertise is because I knew that Centrum was the good product in the category. Then you got your better and then best. And we sat as best. So we had the highest retention of any product in the category. So when someone tried it, we had the highest retention of customers.
Yes.
So people would come back to us. So we knew we had a great formula.
Yes.
And the way we formulated products going forward too would always be at that premium point.
Yeah.
So when you've got that, it's actually the basics of a good product, the basics of marketing. If you've got a great product, you can go and market confidently. So I knew we could, if we got the chance to market and bring in some new consumers, they're going to stick with us. And so we knew Ricky Ponting took our product. The dietitian for the cricket team was ordering our product, and we gave her a special deal to get it because she knew ours was the best, much like my father as an academic or as a doctor and seeing his patient. He wanted to make sure when he told someone to buy it, he knew that it would have an effect and do what it should be doing. And so we had these great relationships with Cricket Australia's dietitian, and the cricket team was the best cricket team by far and away in the world back then.
Yeah.
We were unbeatable. And so the captain of the cricket team was Ricky Ponting.
Yep.
And at that time, it was the second most important person after the Prime Minister. And so for me, that was the ambassador we could have. That was a step above Rob de Castella. No disrespect to him, but in terms of Ricky Ponting's relevance and his standing, it was an extraordinary opportunity to sell our brand to a broad audience and to convince our retailer to give us that space, because the point of sale space was the sale. And so we advertised, but we didn't advertise through target audiences like Centrum did, where they bought advertising for a grocery buyer, X age and so forth. We only advertised with Ricky Ponting in the cricket. So those people watching the cricket, all of our ads only ran in the cricket. We knew that they liked Ricky Ponting, so they would listen to his messaging, and we got mass cut through because we were the first brand really to think that way, to put it in the context of it. And then we went on to, I went and presented to Priceline and their buyer, and she was female, and 95% of their buyers are female. So we got Ricky Ponting on board, and she said, who? So I went home and I asked Mum what TV show is her favourite, and she said, Dancing with the Stars, and Sonia Kruger's amazing. And we got Sonia Kruger on board, and we only advertised with Sonia Kruger in Dancing with the Stars. And we were, by fact, the first lifestyle program to have the star of the program in an advert during the program. We had to break all the rules within networks to enable that to happen. So we're responsible for all those annoying ads when you're watching The Block where all the contestants are suddenly in the ads, or Married at First Sight. We started that whole notion.
It's interesting. So a few things I wanted to cover. Often when companies want to scale, like when you come into Swisse, usually it's actually, you often think it's about doing more or creating more product, but a lot of the time it's actually doing more with less and stripping things back and really honing in on a few things that you're really, really good at. So I find that quite interesting. With the other brands, were they in the multivitamin category and they were just kind of being white, like the similar product, but being white labeled, or they were just different?
No, so they were kind of, they were, one was a range of condition-specific vitamins.
Yep.
So, and we would come back to that, but there was a different brand. So they were Swisse Clinicals. Clinicals was the brand. So that eventually became Swisse Ulti Boost and the Swisse range.
Yes.
But having that amount of range meant that you had to spend a whole lot longer in a pharmacy explaining why they should buy these other products and training on them and
selling
all of
to
that.
A different market too.
We had a tan line spray, so a spray on tan, all natural. We had shampoo, conditioner, moisturiser, body wash. So we had a sensitive skin care range. So again, a different buyer, a whole lot of other things to explain. We had a slimming range, so for slimming, so fibre products that helped with losing weight. So those were some of the brands that I walked in. We had a hair, skin and nails product to it called H by Juven, which had its own range and had some products. So we just rolled some of those formulations into the Swisse range later on. We parked them and we left them there. And we brought them back as a Swisse product when the business was ready.
So I think that's really smart. So how did you decide to just double down on that one brand?
We felt that multivitamins was the biggest category, and we were doing best in that category. And there was still a massive opportunity to do even better. And so we felt that if we focused just on that and kept that simplistic message that if you took a multivitamin, you were going to be healthier. We would then lead in that category, and it was the biggest category. So So that enabled us to then create this big business that then spat out a whole lot of cash.
Yep.
We didn't do any capital raises the whole journey of my time at Swisse. We didn't go out and get other money. It was all funded by the profit of the business and reinvesting those profits in growth and eventually what Swisse became, which is a big business.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was a lot of people watching this would be in the early stages of developing their brand or company. They will have perhaps just hit product market fit and they're starting to build their founding team, et cetera, et cetera. So, I love the idea of having a brand ambassador or aligning yourself with thought leaders or industry professionals in whatever market that you serve with your product or service. And that is very common these days with Instagram influencers and things like that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I want to talk about Light Warrior and all the things that you're doing there. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on, anybody that is watching, listening. Should every brand have an ambassador? How much, like when you guys were working with Ricky, was it like a big risk where it's like, oh, like I hope this pays off, or like were you like punting a lot on it, or like at what point should people think about having that as part, like you're using an ambassador or an influencer versus some of your direct response, media buying PPC stuff versus everything, all the other ways that you can grow? Yeah.
So I'll go back to the barbecue conversation and the kind of the conversation that the average person has.
Yep.
And when I would talk about my time at Village, people loved talking about it. You'd see them light up and go, what movie's coming out next and who's in it, what actor's going to be, or what director, and how they're going about it, and what's the theme of the movie. And it was great conversation. So that to me is interest and spiking people's interest. So when I started talking about health, and I automatically saw that this kind of play in just calling out health claims was too sensitive a topic for it to become barbecue chat. But all of a sudden, when you involved Ricky and why he would use the product to help him get his best out of his game, you're changing the dynamic of the conversation. You're turning it into a much more positive conversation and about how you can take control of your health. And thankfully, at the same time, the whole industry started to shift where it became really fashionable for us to diet, detox, exercise. It's probably the last thing we can boast about. We were all up to something at one stage or another, or wanting to do something, or aspiration to lose weight or be fitter or healthier. So it's become really aspirational to be well. Yes. And that happened around the same time that this whole thing was going on. So people started to get really interested in what were successful people's health plans.
Yes.
And so it authentically connected the storytelling of our products with what these people did to get the most out of their bodies. Whether it was an Olympic athlete, we sponsored that. Ellen DeGeneres, a talk show host, how she gets up for every day and has the confidence to present and have conversations with people. All these people have to be fit and really well to perform at the elite level that they do. And that was the really important thing, is they needed to be elite and aspirational. So, all of us want to be that, and we want to deliver our best self at work and be elite so we can be as successful as we can be. So that became our method of cutting through the noise and having an interesting, relevant story, but it had to be in context. So like I said, in cricket only with Ricky, because I had suddenly a female boy who doesn't even know who Ricky is, no wastage.
Yes.
I need to make sure Sonia Kruger's only with Sonia. So it's about targeting that message to a message that's relevant to that personality. Otherwise, you're getting wastage and you're paying for a whole lot of marketing where their marketing is linked to wastage so incumbently. It's so expensive to market and get consumers to love your product. You really need to find ways to break the system and get as targeted as you possibly can be. So an ambassador delivering that message can be a ways to not have to spend so much on brand building.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden you got an authority talking about your product, but you have to be very careful that individual doesn't vampire your brand, doesn't become your brand. And hence why we had many ambassadors, over 300 ambassadors.
Yeah. Wow.
We'd worked with over our journey at Swisse. But we would link them to retailers. So retailers would have, like the cricket would go to Chemist Warehouse, there's more male consumers that shop there. Priceline will get the tennis. There's more female consumers that watch the tennis, and we'll do an ambassadorship around that. And then at point of sale, and that retailer will be more focused on delivering and optimizing that tailored message that you're creating as a result of using that ambassador. And the ambassadors, whilst it's really important, the fundamental is that they had to take our vitamin. I had to have an interest in nutrition if they were in another country and our vitamin wasn't available.
Yes.
And they had to be interested in health, so the consumer needed to understand that was important to them. And most importantly, our retailer had to be excited by the partnership that the ambassador created for us. So that whole recipe of delivering outcomes for us was essential in helping us refine the message.
What happened next? So you got to 50 million. It started to really scale up. What happened next?
So what happened next was we were getting to a point where we needed to think about how we would chunk out the next phase of growth.
Yep.
And so we were faced with questions again around how do we not contaminate all the work we've been doing on telling people that multivitamins is all you need and what you need to do for your health.
Yes.
And how do we then size up our team to potentially take on other opportunities? So there's two ways you can go. You can go internationally with your multivitamins, so
Yep.
start to open up international markets, which we started to do. But to be honest with you, it's too early in the piece.
Yep.
And just having a multivitamin was never going to be enough to get you significant ranging like a Blackmores range or a Nature's Own range would
Yes.
get back then. And a lot of Blackmores still gets this massive ranging in its store. That marketing at point of sale, when people are making a decision, is the most important step of marketing. So we needed to build out our range, but think about our Ultivite as our hero products, our
Yes.
multivitamin,
Yep.
and then link the new products to, if you have a specific ailment like a sleep deficiency, your multivitamin isn't going to solve that. You need to have an Ulti Boost product, which will then boost your Ultivite. So we're not then exchanging people out from buying them. Instead of buying a multivitamin, they buy a sleep product. No, they buy a multivitamin and have the sleep product together. And then that delivers us an upsell in. And that took us probably a good year to refine how we would go to market with
Yes.
these other products, which all we did was brought back the clinicals range, which was 8 products.
Yep.
And with those same formulations, which were great formulations, repackaged them in smaller sizes, better price point, and put them under the Swisse brand and made them clearly a partner product to the multivitamin. And all of a sudden, the consumer was starting to buy other products in our range. And we attracted other consumers because our point of sale got a whole lot bigger.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, that's actually, it's interesting. You have to do it at the right stage where you've built up an audience, you've built up a community, you've built up a good customer base. At what point do you know when to bolt on, I guess, other products or services to further service them? Because you said at the start, when you came to Swisse, they had too much diversification, but as you grew it, then you started to diversify.
Correct. So you've got to test.
Yeah.
And you know, we grew compound annual growth for 10 years straight, 50%. And
Yeah, wow.
so we're 50% bigger company every year.
Yeah.
And we'd always challenge ourselves for what's the next thing, how we're going to get bigger and how we're going to go about doing that.
Yep.
But also not forget why we got to where we got to. And they were always really robust discussions, and there was constant review of our strategy. It was a moving, living organism that worked with the business and changed with the business needs. And communication was key, and bringing everyone along for that journey. Our team, our board, our shareholders, everyone was really aware of what we were doing, how we're going, and what was the consequence of our actions. And if we got it wrong, we'd talk about what went wrong and learn most from when we got things wrong. And we'd be really open about that. And that was really the key to our success, is the culture.
Yeah.
And that openness and that discussion and that robust, dynamic nature that dynamic business that we'd set up was all based on open, honest conversation.
Yeah, look, I know we have to work towards wrapping up, but talk to me. I want to talk about culture and leadership. You said that, you know, it is the fundamental to build a thriving, growing, sustainable business. And then I'd love to hear about the things you're doing at Light Warrior and the things you're really passionate about in terms of, I guess, investing in companies that have a form of contribution back to society.
Yeah. So for me, I think of when I've been at my worst is when I've had a bad relationship in my life. Yeah. So, most people I talk to about this, they've either had a bad girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, and they were in a bad place, and both of them were in a bad place during that relationship. And then they get out of it and they look back and go, and everyone says, you're so much better now. And what did you talk to me while I was in the relationship? Anyway, that aside, is that I liken that we spend more time in our working period of our lives at work than any other relationship. And when I ask people how work's going, a lot of them are in that bad relationship. And so for me, that was the number one driver of what kept me awake at night, is how people felt about coming to work. And if they felt great and it was a great relationship where, like my wife, our relationship's great because we challenge each other, we grow together and we bring out the best in each other. And yes, that's great most of the time, but it's really hard at other times. But it gets us, we know that it's getting us to a better place. And that's what your relationship should be like at work. It should be great. And yes, it should challenge you. And it should be hard. But you'll become better as a result of it being hard. So we wanted to make sure our relationship with our people was the best relationship that they could have, so we could get the best out of them. And I think that that's why we're so successful.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I'm really passionate about at Foundr is allowing people, if they join your organisation, to do their best work, and being very, very passionate about them doing their best work at your organisation, and being able to promise that is a very powerful thing.
That's right. You've got to be obsessed by it. I liken it to going to a personal trainer.
Yep.
And you go and do 10 push-ups, and the personal trainer says halfway through, you look too tired today, you're not going to get through this. And that's the communication that's going on in workplaces. They come into work and we don't encourage each other. We're not saying, hey, you can get through this, you're going to become stronger. We are creatures of habit. To change and to become better, we need to be told that this is a good thing. We need to be encouraged that change is going to get us to a better place. But naturally, we don't really like change. We don't like waking up at a different time every morning or going to bed at a different time, not brushing our teeth one day and then brushing it the next day. That stuff is, chaos. Or moving house every day. Madness. You're not going to be at the optimal. But if it was getting us to a better place and you were encouraged to do it and you're doing change for the sake of goodness, all of a sudden that becomes easier. It's like going to the gym. You go back to the gym the next time with this trainer that might be encouraging you this time. Each time it might be hard the first time, it gets a bit easier and then easier, but then you feel like, I'm getting stronger, this is rewarding me. It might get harder again, but you see the purpose in it because you're actually feeling stronger and healthier and fitter outside of it. And that's the same thing in your work environment. You need that lift, you need that encouragement. This culture is why we're going to be successful.
Yeah, I love it. So, Swisse ended up exiting. You sold to a big company in China. I don't know.
That's right. So it was Hong Kong listed by a time, and now they're called H&H Group, which is our goal of making people healthy and happier. So we're really proud of that happening. And we'd become the biggest business in China. And the biggest business in China requires local partnerships because it's the culture, the laws, the traditions are just so different to what we experience here in Australia. So it was the right thing to do by the business. They were best culture in China and have won that 5 times over. So they have a focus on people, but that's very different. Culture in China is very different to culture in Australia.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing we could possibly do for the business because it just got so big in China and created its own momentum, and it's bigger than the individuals involved. So in selling the business, there's a great responsibility for me to do the right thing by society. It's and provide cultures like Swisse across many different industries and businesses. For me, capitalism should be used for good. We hear a lot of the negatives around capitalism. I think we live in a pretty special place here in Australia, and that's largely being driven by capitalism.
Yeah.
So it's done a lot of good things, and I think we've lost our way in that. And I think it's up to us as business people, where 4 out of 5 of us in Australia work in capitalist business. 1 out of 5 work for the government. It's not up to government to make this change. It's up to us as business leaders to make this change and to really care about our people, because if our people are happy in the workplace, we're going to have a happier society. Now, I want the government to get involved in this as well, because effectively they should be incentivising businesses to provide great workplaces. So tax cuts shouldn't be liberal, like they're talking about just delivering tax cuts for the sake of, because the US are doing it. It should be based on, if you have a great work environment, you get a tax cut, because then we're going to have a much better society. So that's where we should be, and a lot smarter people, if we're all thinking about this, I'm sure there's even more ways that we can use capitalism to create an even better society than what we have now.
So talk to me, you ended up exiting Swisse and stepping down, and now you've started Light Warrior, which is a venture fund, and you invest in social businesses that do social good, right? But they have a capitalist, like they're a capital business, so it's still for profit, but they have an element of social good, right?
Absolutely, and I think every business can have an element of social good. By providing a great culture, you're suddenly creating a social good. So every business has a culture plan, every business, and that culture plan is as important as a business plan. It also has a communications plan, because if I think of the one person in my life that says to me I don't listen to her, is the one I love most, which is my wife. And it generally takes me 3 times for me to hear something she's telling me. And I'm going, well, hang on. In the workplace, we actually we don't have that love. And we have to say things 10 times over to get the point across. So keep it simple. So hence why you got to have these plans that are nice and clear. So, and they're all going to be intrinsically linked to delivering on a business objective. So that's that. I think we'll have a better society if we're thinking about all those things.
Yes.
And then, the premise of us being called Light Warrior, we're warriors out there trying to bring light to the world. And our foundation's Light Folk. And we're the warriors providing for the folk in our foundation that are also bringing light to the world. And so our foundation is all around the advancement of humankind, and we're looking to build a village with all focus on conscious living.
Wow.
And that's all in process, and we do a whole lot of other things with not-for-profits. I actually sit on 7 not-for-profit boards.
Wow.
And I'm on 9 for-profit boards. So that's what fills my time. And for me, it's about working out a way that we can use capitalism to do immense good. And we're practicing that with the for-profit model, and in the non-profit model, I'm trying to work out how we can infuse the two to deliver better outcomes and to make this system better. And that's going to take some fumbling and trialing and error, but what I'm learning about is some of the fundamentals of great workplace makes a better society, but also how community is a huge part of creating people's sense of worth. So it's not only, we all know personal is really important. You and I were just talking about that before we came on camera. Personal, how we're feeling personal is really important. But what influences how we feel personally is our attitudes to business, our attitudes to family, friends close to us, but then also our attitude to the community and the faith that we have that good is happening out there. And if we can bring more of that together, and we can get businesses to operate together as unified forces in creating good, I'm really excited by the future of the world.
Amazing. So, look, we have to work towards wrapping up. If people want to find out more about yourself and your work, where's the best place people should go?
I think our website's probably the best explanation, so lightwarrior.com, and we'd love to hear from you on any kind of business adventures that you're on, and see if we can help you on your merry way if you're excited by how we think about things.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much, Radek. It was an absolute pleasure, mate.
Good man. Cheers.
The Foundr mission is to help you create an ass-kicking business and help you learn straight from the mouths of world-class founders. Get your free printed edition of Foundr magazine featuring Sir Richard Branson. Just cover shipping and handling at foundr.com/Branson.